This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. I'm Alex Brown. The IU Luddy School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering is launching an initiative designed to create a workforce pipeline for engineers and experts in microelectronics. Professor Daniel Lovelace says students will have the opportunity to build and test microelectronics in extreme conditions, including those designed for use in space where they would be subjected to high levels of radiation.
It's not enough to simply expose students to what semiconductors and circuits are that comprise our computer systems. We have to think about how these are being used in these strategic application spaces and what the potential issues of that type of use is going to be.
The project is being funded by a $5 million grant from Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane Division, with additional support from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Emler Swim School is continuing its expansion into Indiana. The Texas-based company announced Tuesday it has acquired the Nitro Swim School location in Fort Wayne, though financial terms were not disclosed. The school will be rebranded under the Emler name. The acquisition comes less than a year after Emler acquired Stony Creek Swim Center in Noblesville. However, that location retained the Stony Creek name. Hendricks Regional Health has promoted Dr. Ryan Van Donselaar to Chief Medical Officer. He has been with the Danville-based health system since July 2013, most recently serving as hospitalist director, and will begin his new role on Monday. Van Donselaar also chaired the system's Ancillary Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee and served as a key member of the Medical Executive Committee. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
For 25 years, we've had the honor of telling the story of Indiana business. More than 1,300 shows, 8,000 interviews. We've traveled from Valparaiso to Versailles, Fort Wayne to Fort Branch, and everywhere in between. And we are just getting started. Our team is passionate about Indiana business because your story is worth telling. Join us every week as we travel the state to bring you Indiana's story. Inside Indiana Business, 25 years and counting.
The American dream of home ownership is getting further out of reach for many Hoosiers. Here's Gary Dick.
As pandemic-era supply shortages began to return to normal, home prices fell, giving prospective home buyers hope they could find something affordable. But those hopes were dashed for some who found they could not pay the higher mortgage rates, which are currently more than double pandemic lows. According to Paul Schwinghammer, former president of the Indiana Builders Association, markets will bounce back eventually. But when prices return to normal, many will still be unable to afford the investment that sustained previous generations. Mortgage rates currently hover around 7%, which is higher than pre-pandemic rates of about 4%, and pandemic lows of 3%. Part of this is due to the Federal Reserve's sharp hikes in interest rates in order to combat inflation. As people struggle to afford new homes, pre-existing and often cheaper homes are selling less because homeowners don't want to trade in their lower rates for the current 7% mortgage rates. But the market is cyclical by nature, Schwinghammer said, and interest rates will likely be declining in a year. This is Gary Dick for Inside Indiana Business Radio.
The city of Indianapolis has closed on the more than $1 million purchase of the Drake Apartments from the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, in a deal that has been in the works since at least January. The Department of Metropolitan Development used federal Community Development Block Grant funds to purchase the site from the museum in a move that also resolves a lawsuit between the two parties. The DMD plans to convert the 8-story, 95-year-old building into affordable housing units. Because the apartment building is along the Indigo Red Line, the area is considered a transit corridor, an area in which the city is prioritizing for increasing housing supplies. The Mishawaka City Council has advanced the second phase of the $63 million apartment complex, The Mill at Ironworks Plaza along the St. Joseph River. Mayor Dave Wood said the project builds on his push for more housing.
Housing is our biggest challenge right here. We're a growing community, and not only are people struggling to afford new housing and keep pace with it, but we also recognize the need to attract people who want to live in Mishawaka.
The project will feature 227 apartments, a pet spa, fitness club, bike storage, and a mix of rentable private offices and co-working space. With approvals this week, developers say they expect to close and break ground on the Phase 2 property in mid-September. Indianapolis Indians broadcaster Howard Kellman is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, and entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business Radio On Demand.